Elden Ring has a ton of narrative and story embedded in it, making even your goals difficult to understand. To figure out the plot, you need to know the following. The plot of Elden Ring is broad and perplexing. Like to the Elden Ring itself, it is fragmented and made up of small pieces as its various characters serve various lords and carry out their own schemes. As you engage with other tarnished and seek out demigods in an effort to become Elden Lord, you might become lost while playing it. Heck, even the definitions of titles like Elden Lord and Elden Ring are frequently unclear. Your tarnished character's story revolves around fighting your way through the world while attempting to collect great runes in order to become Elden Lord. However, this oversimplified explanation hides the fact that you are actually engaged in a war between various political factions and a number of unnamed gods who are all vying to rule the lands between. In this area, reality itself is in jeopardy, and if you succeed in your quest, you will have the opportunity to decide how to alter the world. The Elden Ring tale is very detailed, however, there are many points of what is going on, what occurred before your arrival, why you came to the lands between, what you are attempting to do, and who is attempting to thwart you all revealed. Chapter 1. A death-related story. Your connection with dying is at the heart of Elden Ring, much like it is in the Demon Souls and Dark Souls games, and it truly informs a lot of what is going on in the universe. The Lands Between is a bizarre location beyond the fog, where the gods and demigods have devoted a fundamental structure of reality to their will. One of the most significant aspects of the Lands Between is that Marika, who is both its goddess and queen, changed reality in order to abolish the natural law of destined death, which states that everything, including gods and demigods, will eventually die. Elden Ring's gameplay loop is similar to that of the other Soulsborne games in that you encounter difficult adversaries and frequently lose the battle, either because they block your path or because you are attempting to gain their power, and frequently both at the same time. However, due to Queen Marika's acts and your status as tarnished, dying in battle is not particularly serious. Instead, you'll wake up at a nearby site of grace or stake of Marika. When you rest at a site of grace, enemies respawn for the same reason. In the Lands Between, death is practically non-existent, and most people have been alive for a very, very long time. It explains why there are so many crucified individuals dispersed across Limgrave, where the adversaries often resemble zombie knights, and why some people appear to be wandering aimlessly or digging at the dirt as if they are lost their heads. You can also hear their cries at night. Similar to Dark Souls, many people appear to have lived for so long that their intelligence and wit have abandoned them. When humans do pass away, their souls typically return to the Earth Tree, the enormous golden tree in the middle of the planet that serves as both the origin of life and the main structure of both the Elden Ring and the Golden Order today. Although it's not entirely apparent what's going on there, it appears like the Earth Tree offers some sort of resurrection or endless life. Elden Ring has a lot of ghosts and gameplay components like Spirit Ash because there are many floating spirits and because they physically return to the Earth Tree rather than dying or being destroyed. Another reason you enter so many underground dungeons with monster rooms filled with Earth Tree roots is so that you can return to the Earth Tree. The close proximity makes it simpler for the souls to go. The first Elden Lord to be ejected from the lands, Godfrey, née Hoarah, and his descendants, known as the Tarnished, arrive in this world. Though the direct ancestry and ties between them have never been made plain, it is strongly indicated that they are the descendants of Godfrey. The Tarnished who had passed away in the outer world were called back to the Lands Between to contest to become Elden Lord after the events depicted in Elden Ring's opening cinematic. The fight to become Elden Lord, your stated objective throughout the game, seems odd at first because you essentially just wake up in the Lands Between with no understanding why you're there. However, many individuals question you or inform you that this is what they're trying to do. This is due to the fact that the role of Elden Lord is very powerful and significant, and many individuals and organizations are expecting to exploit it or whoever earns it for their own purposes. And many of those conclusions have to do with how death functions in the real world. Many people desire to alter how death is perceived in the Lands Between, but they will not succeed without the strength of the Elden Lord and the Elden Ring. Chapter 2. Marika and the Demigods. Understanding how reality in the Lands Between operates and how Marika and her family, who are both godlike beings and the equivalences of feudal kings, queens and lords, rule it is essential to comprehending the Elden Lord's entire scheme. The Elden Ring, that gold ring on the title screen when you start the game, is a magical object that controls the laws of reality in the Lands Between. The great runes that make up that ring appear to control various facets of the world. Marika altered how death operated in her realm by eliminating the rune of death. However, The Elden Ring is not indigenous to the lands between. It was delivered to the world by the Greater Will, an outer godlike cosmic force. The Greater Will has emissaries and agents that it uses to carry out its will because it's located far from the lands between. One of those agents is Marika. She previously belonged to the Newman, a group of humans from outside the lands between. Marika was chosen to become an Empyrean, a human who may be raised to godhood and act as a conduit for the Elden Ring, by emissaries of the Greater Will, the Two Fingers. Marika achieved her goal and eventually attained godhood. The Greater Will is at the top of the hierarchy, followed by Marika and the Elden Ring, the Two Fingers, and finally the Demigods, who are Marika's biological and adopted children. Even though Marika had the Elden Ring strength on her side, she still encounters some people in the lands between. There were actually quite a few inhabitants, each with their own society and gods. In addition to humans and other races dispersed over the globe, they included giants in the mountains, dragons, who may have been subjects of the Greater Will before Marika. Marika founded the Golden Order, a sort of Church of Marika, that also included the laws of reality in the lands between. Once she had power over the Elden Ring and the Rune of Death. She then began an effort to subjugate other civilizations to her kingdom and the Golden Order. She needed someone to fight for her in that conflict, basically a king to her queen. The Elden Lord, who served as Marika's consort and served as her right hand, was a powerful figure in the lands between. Marika picked Horalu, a formidable warrior who later assumed the title of Godfrey the Golden as her first Elden Lord. Godfrey attacked the giants and several other races under Marika's orders. Thanks to Godfrey, there are a ton of frozen giants on the mountaintop of giants when you arrive. Godwyn the Golden and the twins Morgoth and Mo were among the offspring he shared with Marika. In the end, Godwyn seemed to be Marika's favorite child. He would go on to face the dragons and, thanks to his skill in combat, even make friends with a couple of them. But Morgoth and Mo were also Omen kids. Weird, strong, cursed beings with horns sprouting all over their bodies. It appeared that the Golden Order avoided the Omens by removing their horns at birth, a practice that typically resulted in their death. Morgoth and Mo were instead taken to dwell in the prisons and sewers beneath Leyndell, the capital of Marika, where royal Omen children weren't treated nearly as heinously. In the meantime, Marika and Godfrey's initiatives were doing very well, and the Greater Will's influence was growing throughout the nation. Radagon, a champion who rose through the ranks and eventually assumed a significant leadership role within Leyndell's army, was one of the armies they sent out in the world. He deployed an army against Liurnia of the Lakes, one of the nations in the lands between that were exempt for the jurisdiction of the Golden Order. The Rhea Lucaria Academy, which trained sorcerers with cosmically generated abilities at the odds of the faith-based power bestowed by the Golden Order, was located in Liurnia. The Carian royal family served as the nation's monarchs, and there were also strong knights with sorceress abilities. The Carian troops and sorcerers of Liurnia proved to be insurmountable for Radagon and his men, and the two fell in love after meeting Rennala, the Carian monarch, on the battlefield. Therefore, unlike other areas of the lands between, Liurnia came under the rule of the Golden Order not via force, but rather throughout a marriage union between Radagon and Rennala. The three kids they had were named Rykard, Radahn, and Ranni. However, Godfrey eventually ran out of targets, and for whatever reason Marika made the decision to strip him of his Elden Lord title. She expelled Godfrey from the lands between together with his men. It appears that Marika wanted Godfrey and his warriors to live, fight, and die outside the lands between before returning stronger, and that is how the Tarnished had their start. But there's room for interpretation with that whole thing. Radagon left Rennala when Godfrey was expelled, which grieved her, and went back to Leyndell to become Marika's new husband and the second Elden Lord. Rykard, Radahn, and Ranni were made Marika's stepchildren and given the title of Demigods as a result of the new marriage. The twins Miquella and Malenia were the second set of demigod children Radagon and Marika shared. However, these latter two were also born cursed, but in a different fashion than Morgoth and Mo. Malenia was cursed with the Scarlet Rot, a disease that ate away at her from the inside despite being immortal, while Miquella was unable to mature since they were stuck in a child's body for all eternity. Marika and her family managed to create a society in the lands between and rule as a strong royal family for a considerable amount of time despite numerous curses, but gradually, things started to change. Chapter 3: The Shattering and the Night of Black Knives. Marika had totally ruled the lands between and had spread the Golden Order all across. Thanks to the Elden Ring, the Golden Order, and her army of soldiers and clerics, she was incredibly strong. She also had control over the Rune of Death, allowing her to deal specific death to anyone she chose. But other than that, she and her family, and to some extent everyone in the lands between, were essentially immortal. Marika gave her half-brother Malakath the Rune of Death in order to protect it. Malakath is unique in that he is both Marika's shadow and a beastman who is in half wolf and half human. There's more to the shadow issue, but it's sufficient to say that Malakath gave Marika undying loyalty while acting as her shadow. She didn't really treat him equally though. His task was essentially to protect the Rune of Death, which suggests that he was imprisoned somewhere with this extraordinarily terrible ability. However, someone did succeed in stealing a fragment of the Rune of Death from Malakath one evening. A bunch of assassins crept into the capital and killed Godwyn, using it along with several black daggers. The damage was done even though many of them were caught or killed while attempting to flee. The first deity had ever been slain in history. Because Godwyn's death severely damaged Marika and the Golden Order, it is unclear when everything that happened as a result of the Night of the Black Knives occurred. As a result, the next section of the timeline is somewhat murky. Marika appears to have broken the Elden Ring with her hammer at some point, possibly right after Godwyn passed away or sometime later in a fit of grief. That dispersed the smaller runes, some of which were incredibly potent and others not, across the entire planet. Radagon attempted to fix the ring but was unsuccessful, and Marika soon vanished. Again, there may have been calm for a time, but after the Elden Ring was destroyed, things started to deteriorate. Eventually, Radagon and Marika both went missing. The Elden Ring's destruction caused the Golden Order to begin to fall apart, which left a power gap. The Great Runes, which were fragments of the Elden Ring that the many demigods acquired, increased their strength. Some intended to re-establish the Golden Order, some wanted to seize control. Some wanted to use the Elden Ring to alter reality, and some had other gods to which they swore allegiance. The entire lands between were engulfed in a massive civil war known as the Shattering as a result of the demigods' competing claims of the title of Elden Lord for their own purposes. Quickly, the lands between were divided into little provinces, each with an army of its own. A number of the demigods engaged in conflict, which culminated in a fierce conflict between their two best warriors, Radahn and Malenia. They engaged in combat on a large swath of sand dunes in Caelid, but neither was able to win. Even though neither of the demigods triumphed, their conflict had a profound impact on Caelid as it wiped out both armies and spread Malenia's sickness, the Scarlet Rot. The Scarlet Rot is a horrible disease with no known treatment that can eat away at limbs and impair brain function. Scarlet Rot had Radahn so gravely afflicted that he went insane. Malenia, who harnessed the force of the rot within her to equal Radahn's might, suffered severe consequences from the illness as well. As a result, she lost a lot of her will and sense of self before she passed away. The battles of the Shattering partially subsided after that enormous fight, but they left the majority of the lands between in ruins. The demigods withdrew to strongholds and fortresses with their great runes as they were unable to defeat one another, or reluctant to risk being defeated by one another. There is no one to end the deadlock between them despite the fact that some of the demigods are currently advancing themselves through the Elden Ring. Whether they are speaking with the outer gods, attempting to increase their strength, or defending their traditional ways. The Golden Order and the lands between are languishing in a condition of a semi-civil war since no one can claim the Elden Ring to heal it. Nobody perishes, no one triumphs, and everything is destroyed. The Tarnished enter the picture here. They find themselves being led by Grace, a large golden light that only they can see, after being summoned back to the lands between by some odd force. The Greater Will, which appears to be subordinate to the Two Fingers, is what drives Tarnished to seek out demigods and take their greater runes in order to fix the Elden Ring and become Elden Lord. In essence, since the demigods are unable to complete the task, it is being delegated to haphazard warriors. Since you are by no means the first to attempt this, you will encounter several Tarnished throughout the course of the game. Many of the Tarnished you encounter have actually been doing this for so long that their ability to recognize Grace has diminished. Not only are the lands between mostly in ruins when you arrive, but the institution of the Tarnished, like the Round Table Hold, are also withering near the conclusion of Marika's long rule. Chapter 4: Agendas and Outer Gods. Elden Ring is centered on your quest to kill the demigods and take some of their great runes, but there is also a ton of other activity going on. Elden Ring is full of numerous other characters, all of whom are pursuing their own objectives. Most Tarnished and demigods you meet, as well as many others, desire to become Elden Lord. Some of them will attempt to utilize you to further their objectives. The Two Fingers, the representative of the Greater Will, is the main force propelling your quest. Typically, a Finger Maiden would provide knowledge on the Two Fingers and their directives for you. These young women have sworn allegiance to their Tarnished, who will lead them in serving the greater will and adhering to the Two Fingers knowledge. They also assist you by channeling runes at places of grace, which give you more power. In the game, if you begin maidenless, it indicates that for some reason you didn't receive a finger maiden. As a result, you are unable to improve your skills and you are therefore essentially doomed. Fortunately, Melina, a weird woman, offers you to be your finger maiden as long as you assist her in her mission. While many individuals are vying to become Elden Lords, not all of them are motivated to repair the Elden Ring because the greater will commands you to do so. Due to the Lands Between's relative openness following the Shattering, there is a great deal of warfare there. While other outer gods do exist and their adherents are also battling for power, the greater will has long held the upper hand. If you look for information about them, many of them are discussed throughout the game and their influences can be found everywhere. Consider Malenia and the Scarlet Rot as an example. When you explore the game's rot-related regions, you'll discover that the rot is tied to a separate rot goddess who has her own followers. Another outer god attempting to bring an era of chaos to the Lands Between is the Frenzied Flame, who appears to be in direct opposition to the Greater Order. As you progress, you'll come across more references to additional outer gods, and learning about their objectives will shed more light on Elden Ring's universe. There are also those who desire complete independence from the outer gods. The Two Fingers also selected a group of demigods known as Empyreans as potential candidates to succeed Marika in achieving full godhood. Although the specifics of how Empyreans operate are unknown, we do know that these personalities are considered to be prospective Marika's successors. Once someone is selected to be an Empyrean, they are given a completely obedient wolf shadow. Marika provided Malakath in this capacity. The only Empyreans who we are aware of are Ranni, Radagon's daughter with Vernala, and the twins Malenia and Mikela, who were born to Marika and Radagon. Another Empyrean, known in the tradition as the Dusk-Eyed Queen, is another whom we know very little about. As a result, groups and cults desire to remodel the Elden Ring in accordance with their own ideas. Demigods aspire to become Elden Lord by working alongside Marika and the Golden Order, and Empyreans might wish to become fully fledged gods themselves and replace Marika entirely. As a result, as you navigate the realm of the Lands Between, you'll come across a wide variety of characters, each of whom will tell you something different, and crucially, some of them will lie to you in order to further their own interests. Others will try to kill you so they can grab your possessions. Everyone aspires to take on Elden Lord's persona and the associated authority. It is up to you to decide who to support or undermine, and what you decide to do with the power you acquire along the road. And that is the story of Elden Ring. Thank you for listening, and I will see you next time.